Hey, I'm Rob.
And I'm Jenny.
And we're here to announce the 8th round of the Trope-ical Readathon.
The 6th round of our month-long version.
So it's going to start March 1st, 2023, starting in your own time zone at midnight.
Yep. So if you're not familiar with it, we've done it a lot of times, so maybe you've watched a bunch of our other ones, but it's a team-based readathon. So there are 6 teams, and they're all based off of genres, but we'll get into it a bit later. It doesn't really matter what team you choose. Usually people will choose like what genre they like the most, but it doesn't actually really matter.
The 6 teams are Team Romance,
Team Science Fiction,
Team Fantasy,
Team Mystery Horror Thriller,
Team Contemporary Literary Historical Fiction,
and Team Nonfiction Poetry.
So a lot of times when you decide what team you want to be on, I, for one, am basically always on Team Science Fiction because probably it's my favorite genre. So sometimes people make that choice. Sometimes people just decide to pick different ones.
Yeah, I've been moving around. I was on Team Romance for a bit, and then I did Team Contemporary Literary Historical Fiction, and now I'm on Team Nonfiction Poetry, I think.
Yep, I believe so. But really, in the end, and we'll explain this again later, the 2 team-specific challenges are really the only thing that like tie you to a specific team. So you might use that to decide what team to be on.
Yeah, so I always say that if you're stuck between 2 teams, look at the team challenges because those are the only things that will affect your TBR. Yeah. And typically, nonfiction poetry is the one that needs the most people. So if you're looking at that and that looks interesting, that's a good choice.
Yeah. And so in the end, the goal is to get points for your team by reading books and
completing challenges.
Completing that.
And then the points get averaged out. So if one team is gigantic and one team is small, it won't actually really matter in the end.
Yep.
Okay, so there are 13 common challenges, 2 team-based challenges, and then there's team books for each team.
Yeah. So for each team.
Hello.
Our cat Whitefoot would like to explain as well. Each team, there's 2 team books. One that's a new release, so often in the last month or 2, and one that's an older book, so it should be available easily from the library or something like that, or a used bookstore.
I wasn't expecting you to say that, so I'm all sorts of messed up right now. Do you want to go into common challenges?
Sure.
Okay, so there are 13 common challenges. It's either you can read a book with that trope in it, or there's a alternate challenge that you can satisfy instead if you can't find a book that satisfies that trope.
Yeah. This is the Trope-ical Readathon, so the challenges are initially based on a trope.
Yeah.
So the first challenge is to read a book with the absent dead parents trope. So this is a trope that happens a lot where, you know, in YA, for instance, where there's just like somehow no parents involved.
Or someone's like mom recently dies, like right before the book or like at the very beginning of the book or something like that.
Something like that.
And then the alternate prompt for that is to read a book with more than one author.
Yeah. The second prompt is the love triangle prompt. So again, a situation that happens a lot, also happens a lot in YA novels where there's some sort of love triangle where this person likes that person, but then this person also likes that person, and maybe they don't know which one to pick.
Yeah. And then the alternate prompt is to have your followers, your friends, or whatever choose between 2 books. So you can like put a poll on Twitter or something like that.
The third prompt is the boarding school prompt. So some sort of book where the characters are at a boarding school.
Mm-hmm. And then the alternate prompt is a buddy or a group read. So if you're part of like a book club, that can count, or you can just find somebody else doing the readathon that has a book that they want to read and you can buddy read with them.
The next prompt is the dark academia trope. So this is a pretty popular trope these days. It's kind of, so, you know, the setting, some sort of, you know, a college or a high school, something like that, but where there's kind of something dark. So sometimes it's like a dark fantasy. Sometimes there's like been like a murder that someone's trying to solve. So some sort of kind of situation
Sometimes
like that.
Sometimes there's like ghosts or something, like, yeah. And then the alternate prompt is a borrowed book. So this can be like from the library, you can borrow it from a friend, you can like borrow it on Libby or something like that.
The next trope is the holiday trope. So this is kind of holiday or vacation. So the book, the character in the book is like on a holiday somewhere, has to go on a trip somewhere, something
But you can also interpret it as takes place around a holiday.
Yeah, it could also be like a Christmas
like
theme,
Christmas
or Halloween,
yeah. Thanksgiving, whatever. And then the alternate prompt is takes place in another country. So whatever country you're in, find a book that takes place in a different country.
The next prompt is blast from the past. So this is something where, so sometimes in like a horror novel, you'll have like something that happened 20 years ago to this person is all of a sudden like haunting them again, or like, it could be in some sort of, you could even imagine like a romance where like they like rekindle a relationship that they like had back in high school or something like that.
Or they could go back to their hometown in a contemporary novel or anything like that. And the alternate prompt is to read a book that was published before the year 2000.
The next prompt is the mixed media prompt. I really like this one. So this is reading a book that like inside of it has like either journal entries or text messages, sometimes video transcripts, stuff like that.
And then the alternate prompt is to listen to an audiobook or to read an ebook.
The next prompt is the post-apocalyptic / dystopia. So another kind of fairly popular prompt where the action takes place in a world that either like after some sort of large apocalypse has happened and people are surviving that, or during, right? The post is in parentheses. Or some sort of dystopia where the government is controlling people and terrible and stuff. Yeah.
And then the alternate prompt is to read a book that is over 500 pages.
Because that feels like being in a dystopia.
Yep.
The next trope is the found family trope. So a situation where the characters maybe kind of they maybe don't know each other first, and they become kind of like very good new kind of family and loving each other in a kind of family way that helps them be happy.
And then the alternate prompt is to read a book in a series.
The next prompt is the coming of age prompt. So this is kind of a book about someone kind of growing up and learning about, being an adult or being like an older teenager, or, it could even be like somebody a bit older, kind of just learning about
themselves,
being older in life and learning about themselves. Yeah.
And then the alternate prompt for that is to read an indie book or a self-published book. A self-published book, if you didn't hear that over the meow.
I'll have to make sure to put the meows in the
caption.
The captions. The next prompt is the multiple POV prompt. So this is a prompt where the way the chapters are organized or something is it changes whose point of view it is.
And then the alternate prompt is to read a book with multiple characters of color.
Multiple POC. Get it? She doesn't get it. The next prompt is the bookish themes prompt. So this is a book. She loves being picked up. A book that has themes about books. So it might be like a story of a librarian, a story that happens in a library, a story about an author, stuff like that.
And then the alternate prompt is to read a book with a pun in the title. So this happens a lot with like cozy mysteries, but it can happen with other genres as well.
And the final general prompt is the retelling. So there's kind of a lot of these recently as well. You hear the purring.
She's purring pretty loudly.
So retelling, sometimes it's a mythology retelling, sometimes it's a folklore retelling, sometimes it's retelling of a movie or a book that's more recent, something like that.
And then the alternate prompt is a book with an adaptation. So this can be a TV adaptation or a movie adaptation.
Okay. So that's the 13 general prompts that people can try to satisfy. Anybody on any team can try to satisfy those.
Mm-hmm. And so now we're going to go into the team prompts. So these are specific to your team. This is what I was talking about, where these are the only things that will affect your TBR because they're specific to the team that you choose.
Yeah, so each team has 2 team-specific prompts. There's no alternate prompts for these. Maybe just to be clear, they're team-specific, but you don't have to read a book of the genre of your team to satisfy the prompt. It's just kind of prompts that are typically associated with that genre.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about the team challenges, and then we'll also mention the team books, which again, there's the new version, a newer release, and then an older release. So you can choose between these two which one you want to read.
Yeah, so basically anyone can read the team books for the points to satisfy that prompt, and you can read one book per team. So up to 6 teams, 16 books. So pick either one of the new or the old one for a given team.
Okay, so first team is Team Romance, and the team challenges for that is to 1, read a book with the competition trope. So the competition trope is like when the characters are involved in some kind of competition. It could be like a culinary competition or like prom queen or I don't know.
Yeah, like some sort of like TV competition, like, you know, there'll be like a bachelorette thing or something like that. The second team-specific challenge for romance is to read a historical romance novel. So kind of, you know, some sort of historical fiction that is a romance novel. So it could be like from the 1800s, it could be set in the 1970s, you know, anything that's like historical.
Yeah, it's not really a trope, it's like a subgenre, but we try to mix it up every round, so we're slowly running out of tropes. So we're moving into subgenres.
Genres are just really big tropes anyways.
Yeah. Okay, so the team books, the new version, I keep saying version, the new team book is Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. This is the only book that we have, so this is the only book I can physically show you.
Yeah, the other team books aren't out yet, the new ones.
Yeah, and we haven't got the other ones from the library yet, but this one is about these two people who used to be friends, but then they became like enemies and they're just like constantly bickering with each other, but now they're becoming friends again and leaning towards romance. So it's like a friends to enemies to friends to lovers book.
Yeah, and it's a YA romance, right? They're in like high school or something?
Yeah.
Okay. The old team book is You Had Me at Ola by Alexis Daria. What was this about?
This is about two people who are on a telenovela.
Oh, yeah. They're like two actors who are like starting to star in this new telenovela.
Mm-hmm. And they're trying to like save their career, so they start rehearsing together, but then that turns into a romance, and then there's a bunch of drama associated with that.
Yeah. So that's an adult romance. Team Science Fiction. The first team challenge is to read a book with the multiverse trope. So there's a lot of these recently as well. It's kind of, you know, a situation where there's many universes or there's other dimensions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And then the second team challenge is to read a book with the science gone wrong, don't do that trope. So this is a trope where someone's done something with science that they probably shouldn't have done, and so a lot of mayhem results from that. Like maybe they brought somebody back to life, or maybe they released some kind of infection into the world, and that shouldn't have been done.
Or maybe they created a monster. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think often Frankenstein is considered the first science fiction novel, and that would fit into this. Okay, the new team book is The Mimicking of Known Successes by Malka Ann Older. So I read her Sentinel cycle and really liked it. And so I'm looking very much forward to this. It's kind of described as like a cozy murder mystery / sapphic romance that happens on Jupiter.
I was going to say on Mars, but that's wrong.
Jupiter. So I don't know. I'm pretty excited.
And then the old team book is War Girls by Tochi Onyebuchi, and this is about it's about how it's like
future
20-something,
2172,
something like that. It's in the future. The world's gone to heck because of global warming and all that good stuff. And so a lot of people live in space, but the people who are left on Earth are fighting with each other constantly. So it's about two sisters who are on Earth participating in these wars and trying to fight their way to a better future together.
Well put.
Team Fantasy. So the first team challenge for Team Fantasy is to read a book with a god/mythology trope. So this is a book where the characters are like gods or demigods or are based on mythological beings.
Yeah, so it doesn't necessarily have to be based on real gods or something. Mm-hmm. The second team challenge is to read a gaslit fantasy novel. So this is kind of it's people kind of related to like steampunk, if you know what that is, but steampunk is kind of...
I think steampunk we had last round.
I think so, yeah. But steampunk is kind of like the sci-fi of that, and this is like the fantasy version. So like kind of things that happen kind of like 1800s, early 1900s, like that kind of era in like a kind of fantasy world.
Mm-hmm. The new team book for Teen Fantasy is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. What was this? It was like a gothic.
It's like a gothic.
It's a gothic
fantasy.
about this guy who might be unnamed because he's unnamed in the blurb.
Yeah.
Who marries this woman, but he doesn't know anything about her past. But then her relative dies, and they have to go back to an old house that she lived in.
The house seems kind of sketch.
And the house is sketch, and he's learning sketch stuff about her past.
Yeah. The old teen book is The Girl from Everywhere, which is about this girl who seems to sail around with her dad in a boat that can travel through time. It seems, I think, like he can like navigate the boat to anywhere that he has a map, and he's looking for a map of 1868 Honolulu to be able to go back to his kid's mom, but then like I think maybe there's some sort of like weird paradox of like then that might make her not exist, and I don't know. Looks interesting. Me. The next theme is Team Mystery Horror Thriller. The first team challenge is to read a book featuring the cosmic horror trope. So this is like kind of one of these horror novels where like it's like the big bad is some sort of like very big bad that kind of like lives on like a cosmic universe scale. It could like kind of just do whatever it wants.
And the second challenge is to read a book featuring the cold case trope. So this is when the book revolves around some kind of cold case that the characters are trying to solve, or that's like constantly in the background of their story.
Yeah, so like, you know, like a 20-year-old murder that they're trying to like figure out or something. The new team book is She is a Haunting by Trang Tan Tran. And so this is like a it kind of seems like a kind of
Haunted house.
Thank you. I was like horror house. No, haunted house kind of novel about this girl who is like a Vietnamese American, but she goes back to Vietnam to visit with her dad or something in some sort of like haunted house, and she has to like be there with him for 5 weeks, I think you said, in order to like so that he'll like pay for her college or something. But yeah, weird things happen.
But the house is haunted. But I guess nobody believes her that the house is haunted, and she's trying to prove that it's haunted. And then the old team book is Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby. And this was about a person who used to be a getaway driver, but he kind of went clean, but now he's having money troubles, so he's going to do a last heist to get out of his money troubles, but that goes seriously wrong.
Yeah.
The next team is Team Contemporary Literary Historical Fiction. The first team challenge for this is to read a book with the I want to perform trope. So this can be a main character who like is in drama and like wants to be like an actor, or this can be a main character who wants to be a singer or is a singer, any type of performance stuff. I think on our recommendations you also have like a podcaster on there too.
And the second team challenge is to read a book centered around a historical event. So just kind of like a book where, you know, some sort of major part of the story happens in or around or because of a major historical event.
The new team book is Hungry Ghosts by Kevin Jared Hossein. And this was about something...
It was set in 1940s Trinidad.
Oh, yes. And it's about... these families that, like, some of them are rich and some of them aren't, but then one of the rich people goes missing.
I think it's not one of the rich people.
Oh, somebody goes missing, and the repercussions of that are that like all of these classes get mixed together, and it like offsets the balance of what's going on there.
And then the old team book is I Can Make This Promise, which is about it's a middle grade book. And I guess
by Christine Day.
Oh, sorry. I Can Make This Promise by Christine Day. And I guess semi-autobiographical about a girl whose mom was adopted by white parents, but this girl wants to know about her Native American heritage and kind of finds something in an attic that like gives her clues and wants to like know more about it. The final team is Team Nonfiction Poetry. And the first team challenge is to read a book with the diary/journal trope. So this is, it could be, again, you don't have to read a nonfiction book if you're on nonfiction poetry. So this could be a book that is like literally someone's diary that you're reading. Or it could be just a novel whose format is kind of formatted as if it was the main character's diary or something like that.
And the next team challenge is to read a book written by an actor. Again, not really a trope, more like a random category that we put because we're running out of ideas. So there's a lot of actors who will write both like memoirs or nonfiction books, but there's a lot of actors who also write fiction books. So
yeah, a lot of the ones that we came up with fiction-wise were like recent kind of like YA or MG books that a lot of actors are writing, including both actors in, what's the White Castle movie called?
The what? The White Castle movie?
I'm just blanking on the name of it. Yeah, John Cho and Cal Penn are in this movie. Harold and Kumar go to White Castle.
It's like the White Castle. Okay.
Anyways, they've both written like.
Oh, I think
YA
they're both
or
on
MG.
our recommendations.
Yeah, exactly. I remember seeing that and being like, oh my god, it's Harold and Kumar.
I've never watched Harold and Kumar, so I didn't recognize that.
Anyways, and Neil Patrick Harris is in that, and he's also, he like plays himself. Sorry. The new team book is Hijab book. This is what I typed to. Hijab Butch Blues, a memoir by Lamia H. So this is a memoir in essays about someone who immigrated to the U.S. For college, I believe, and kind of her life being a lesbian hijabi immigrant.
And then the old team option is Turtle Under Ice by Julia Del Rosario. And this one was about two sisters who just recently lost their mom, and because of their grief, they kind of like split up, I guess, and stopped talking to each other. But then the main character's sister goes missing, and she's trying to figure out what went wrong, and also realizing that she might have played a part in it.
Yeah, and this is a team nonfiction poetry book because it's a novel in verse, so it's kind of a poetry novel. All right.
Cool.
So that's the teams and their related things.
Okay, point system?
Yeah, let's explain the point system.
Okay, so again, the goal of this is to get as many points as you can.
The goal is to have fun.
Oh, sure.
We will have fun.
I have to sneeze, but I can't sneeze.
You can go off camera now.
No, I just mean like it's just like my nose is just like you're gonna sneeze. You're gonna sneeze. Okay, so the point of the readathon is to have fun. I'm sorry, but you're also, while you're having fun, a side thing is that you're also collecting points for your team. And so if you complete a common challenge, that is 50 points each. So there are 13 common challenges. So you can get 13 times 50.
650
points. Thank you.
And then the team challenges are worth 100 points each. They're a bit more difficult because they're kind of more specific. There's no alternate prompts, so we give you more points for those. So your team will have 2 team prompts, so you can get an extra 200 points for that.
Mm-hmm. And then the team books are 150 points each. And again, you can read one team book from every team. So you can get max 6 times 150 points if you do all of the teams.
900 points.
Thank you.
Yeah, and yeah, again, you don't have to read the book from your team at all. You can just read someone else's team book.
Yeah.
Or none of them.
Yeah. And then you also get 1 point per page that you read. So regardless of whether or not the book you're using is going to count for a challenge, if you read it, you get a point per page. So maybe you're just like, I hate everything on my TBR right now. I'm going to randomly pick up this book and it doesn't match anything, but I'm going to read it anyways. And if it's 450 pages, you get 450 points for that.
Yeah. So we have kind of 2 basic restrictions about what counts for being able to satisfy a prompt. So one is that the book can't be a graphic novel. So graphic novels do, however, count towards pages. So again, you get one point per page for whatever you read. So if you read, a 150-page graphic novel, you get 150 points. But you can't use it to satisfy a prompt, so you don't get those bonus points. And then otherwise, it also has to be a book that's at least a novella or up. So it's about 17,500 words or above.
And also he lied. The other rule is that you're not allowed to double up on challenges.
Okay.
So, you can't use one book for multiple prompts, and you can't do the same prompt 18,000 times and get a point. Yes. Points for all of
You
that.
can only get the points for a given prompt once. And yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so maybe a kind of special case of that is you can't read both team books and get 150 points for each of those. You can, however, if you're interested in reading both team books, you can read one of them as a team book and one of them to satisfy some other prompt. A lot of times, the team books satisfy various prompts.
Cool. So for these books, Rob and I run a website. It's called booktriggerwarnings.com, and that's where we put trigger and content warnings along with representation info and tropes that are in books. So if you're interested in seeing if one of the books on your TBR is on this website, you just go to booktriggerwarnings.com, and it's a wiki. So you search, and if it's there, cool. You can edit it if something's not right or if something's missing, and if it's not there, it's a wiki, so you can add the page yourself.
Reading sprints. So we also every time set up reading sprints. So we we'll have a registration up. Is that up?
Mm-hmm.
There's a registration up on the website already about signing up if you're interested in doing reading sprints and helping us host reading sprints. So the two of us will host some reading sprints. We'll have a few other people who volunteer to host them. We'll post the schedule and basically try to host them throughout kind of the whole, all week, all month, at various times, where people can get together on Twitter and read together.
Yep, so if you're interested in being a reading sprint, there is a link to apply. If you're interested,
I want to be a reading sprint.
If you're interested in being a reading sprint host, there's a link to apply down. He is a reading sprint right now, down below in the description.
Yep. We also host 2 giveaways associated with the readathon. One of them is for posting your TBR, and the other one is at the end in terms of the kind of winners and participating.
So the first one, the TBR giveaway, to enter that, you just have to post your TBR before the
registration deadline.
Yeah, before registration closes on March 5th. And so just post it anywhere, tag us in it. If we don't exist, if you're like, I posted it on MySpace, I don't know. You can DM us the link or email us the link, and we'll enter you in. Make sure to put your username that you registered under when you're sharing this, because then we can know who it is that is entering. Yep.
And so then, you get entered into a randomized thing to get a giveaway. The giveaway is a book depository giveaway for $30. So anywhere that Book Depository ships, you get to choose a book of your choosing.
And the TBR does not have to be set in stone. It's just showing people what you plan on reading. You can change your mind whenever you want.
Yeah, you can. I'm the biggest mood reader, so my TBR will be totally fake, but I will mean it at the time.
And then the second giveaway is for participating. So as long as you get at least 500 points, I think, right?
Yeah.
Then you're entered into that. And then there's one for the general pool of participants, and there's one for the winning team.
Yeah, so if your team wins, then you get kind of extra chance at winning the giveaway. But yeah, basically, so at the end, we pick 2 winners at the end. And yeah, you just, so the 500 points is just because like sometimes people sign up and then they don't actually ever update anything. But, if you read a team book that's 350 pages, then that's 500 points, because you get 1 point per page plus 150 points for completing the team book. So it's not like a big hurdle. It's just to make sure the people that win are part of the readathon.
Okay, so you can register. There's a link below to register. The deadline to register is March 5th at 11:59 Chicago time, because that's where we are. And then there's also a written version of this announcement also linked below. So if you forget something and you don't want to watch this all over again, you can go to my blog and read it. On that announcement are several links that will be useful for you. So there's the registration link, and then there's a link that says update your points.
Yeah, so the update your points thing will bring you to a calendar. So for any day, you can click on that day. It'll ask you for the name you signed up with, so don't forget that name. And then how many pages you've read. So just update how many pages you've read since the last time you updated. And then there's also a list that you can check off whatever prompts you've finished since the last time you've updated, and whatever team books maybe you've read since the last time you updated. So it's just about updating since the last update. You don't have to like keep a cumulative tally of everything.
And then there's a link to the leaderboard. So this is if you're curious in the middle of the readathon about who's winning. So it'll say team blah 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 is in the lead, and then it also shows the top contributor for each team. And I feel like I have to sneeze again.
Well, there's a cat next to you.
Oh
yeah. There's an FAQ on there as well. So if there's like some things you aren't quite sure about with the rules, you can take a look there. Yeah, I mean, if it still doesn't make sense, you can always find us on Twitter or Discord.
Instagram.
And
we have an email address too.
Yeah, so the Twitter, Instagram, and Discord links are up on the page as well. And we also have a list of recommended books that you can see. So for each prompt, we've provided 4 different options of some book recommendations that satisfy the prompt that you might be interested in.
And then there's a link for participant list. So this is when you register, I have to manually update this so it doesn't get updated automatically. But this is when you register, I put your username up on the site because a lot of people will forget what they signed up for. And so you can click on the team that you're on, and usernames are in alphabetical order. So if you ever forget what you signed up as, go click on that and double check what you did. Because if you update under a different name, your points don't get counted because the spreadsheet is matching up the names with what the submissions are.
Yeah. Sometimes we can kind of figure out who it probably is, but sometimes people update their points with names that aren't similar to anything that has been signed up with. So try to remember what you signed up with.
Mm-hmm. And then the last link is photo templates. So this is templates that like I made or that other readathon participants made, and they said that I could put it up for other people to use. So these are templates that you can use to keep track of your reading while the readathon's going, or to share your TBR. You can use some of these templates to just like edit the book cover of what book you're reading for what prompt.
Okay. Did we do it?
I think we did. But
I think we did it.
Kind of feel like doing it again.
It's that fun.
Okay, bye.
Bye.